Hi everyone. For this week's homework, you have three different things to do. Number one is pick one composition to refine. So based on my feedback from last week, you're going to pick one of your drawings to clean up. So that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to start from scratch, but depending on what my feedback was, you might have to clean up some of your lines, maybe darken them in some places, you might have to add some components to your drawing, or maybe erase some stuff out. However, if my feedback was that none of your compositions were really working, or that they needed some major work, then you might have to just start from scratch. That's probably going to be the easiest. Once you're done with refining your composition, just like last week, you're going to scan it or take a picture of the drawing, and then you'll be submitting that image this week for your homework. And if in your feedback I said that your composition was working as is and doesn't need any more refining, then all you have to do is resubmit your drawing from last week in the week 3 assignment section. Alright, number 2, we're going to be using Illustrator this week, so you're going to need to decide if you want to use the New Media Arts Labs, and I'll have a link to the lab hours there, or you could get the free trial of Illustrator, but that only lasts for 7 days, so after that you'll have to either purchase the 1-month subscription or start using the labs. To get the trial, you could click this link here. It's going to take you to Adobe, and then you'll be able to download Illustrator from here. It's going to ask you to start an Adobe account if you don't already have one, and you'll need that for downloading any apps. And then you can click here to follow the installation instructions on Adobe's website. And then this goes through everything on how to download the trial app. If you don't want to start off with a trial and just want to pay for the 1-month subscription, you could click here, and then this will take you to Adobe's site where you can pick the plan you want. So you probably want to just do the single app. You can pick Illustrator, and then you can go to Buy Now. Now, if you don't have an Adobe account, you'll be asked to set that up before you come to this page, but this is where you just fill in all your info and buy the actual app. Once you download Illustrator, it's going to install the Adobe Creative Cloud app. If you double-click on that, and make sure you have the app selected here, it's going to show you all of the Adobe apps. So you can install Illustrator right from here, and this is where you can also open it. Alright, now that you have Illustrator, next is going to be the pen tool exercises. So you want to download the file, which is right here. You want to trace and color using only the pen tool and modifier tools. So all of that is in the pen tool tutorial right here. We don't have a tutorial on coloring this week, but I briefly covered it in here because I do want you to color these, and you have to do a little work in the layer panel, but I have it all laid out for you in this tutorial. Alright, so to get the file, you can click on it here, and then you can download it from here, or you can just right-click, save link as, and then save it where you want. And it's going to download the AI file, which is an Adobe Illustrator file. So I saved it here. Okay, so first thing you're going to want to do is just change the name here to your name. And then you can just double-click it to open it. Alright, so if your layers panel didn't open with it, it might look like this. You can just go to Window and then hit Layers. And this is all in the pen tool tutorial as well. Okay, so your layers are going to be the trace layer and your draw here layer. The trace layer is going to have the image that we're tracing over, and it's locked so you can't move that layer accidentally. You could turn the visibility for that layer on and off here. And then this layer here is where we're going to be drawing on. So you want to make sure that layer is selected. And then just like in the pen tool tutorial, you're going to use your pen tool here and start drawing. So one thing you want to remember for zooming and panning around on your artboard, you can use Alt, hold down Alt or Option on a Mac, and then use your scroll wheel to zoom in and out. And then you can also hit spacebar to get the little hand, and then that lets you pan around. So that's just easy to move around your board. Okay, so you're going to start with your table. I'm not going to trace everything right now because you can see how I did it in the pen tutorial. But you want to just start by getting your pen tool, and then I'm just going to start with the top of the table here. So like in the pen tool tutorial, you just click to add your anchor points, and then to close it, you just want to see that little circle by the icon, click and close. And again, I mentioned this in the tutorial, but you want to keep this as separate objects. So the tabletop is going to be separate, this little piece here will be separate, this piece here, and so on. You don't want to make this as one single object. Alright, before I do any more, I'm just going to change the color of this. I'm going to select my fill icon here and just hit none. So that gets rid of the white fill. And then I'm going to select the stroke here. So right now it's a black stroke, but that's a little hard to see on the gray. So I'm going to double click that and just change that color. Okay, then you just want to finish tracing the table and then move on to the heart and the apple. So you'll need to be using the pen tool. You'll also need to add and delete anchor points when necessary, and you'll also be using the anchor point tool. Also, you'll be using the direct selection tool to select just the individual anchor points and move those around. I cover all of this in the pen tool tutorial, so be sure to refer back to that if you get stuck on anything. Once you've drawn your first path, it's going to show up here. If you double click on that, you can just name it there. And then you just want to continue on with your tracing. So I'll do this next side first. Close that. And now I have another path here, so I'm going to double click that. I'm going to call it the tabletop side. Now you're not required to name these for this exercise right now, but you are required to name all of your paths for the project. So it's a good habit to start getting into now. Alright, I'm just going to finish up the tabletop quickly here. I'm going to name that path tabletop side 2. Okay, once you're done all of your tracing, you're going to want to add color to this, which I also cover briefly in the tutorial. So I'm just going to select my tabletop here, and I'm going to take the stroke off. So I want to select the stroke and then hit none. And then I'm going to change the color of it. So I want to select my fill icon. I'll double click that to bring up my color options, and I'm just going to make that a brown color. I'm going to select the side one here. Since there's no fill on it, it doesn't let you select it from the middle, so you have to select it from the path. And again, I'm going to turn off my stroke, and I'll make it like a lighter brown here. And again, I'll take off the stroke and give it a color. Once you remove the stroke and add color, you might have slivers where you can just see between the color into the background. So like right here, for instance, if I zoom up really closely, they're not completely touching there, and then you can see a little sliver there. So what I want to do is grab my direct selection tool, and with your direct selection tool, you want to just click on it to select it, and then you want to click on just this anchor in the corner that you want to move. So I'm going to click on that individual anchor, and then I can just move that one, and I'm going to move it up just so it overlaps it and I get rid of that sliver. I'll also click this one and then just click that anchor, and then I can move that and kind of line it up with it. And then I get rid of any slivers that I have. Once you have everything drawn, you can also add and take off the stroke all at once. So I took it off at these one at a time, but if you select all of your objects, you can add or remove the stroke all at once. Alright, so once you're done tracing it and coloring it, and then just look to find any slivers or parts of the paths that need cleaning up and tweak those. Once you're done everything, you're going to go to File, Save your file, and then you're going to take that file right there, which is the AI file, the Adobe Illustrator file, and that's what you'll be submitting to Laulima. Alright, once you're done with all of your homework, you can come back to Laulima, and at the very bottom of the homework page here will be a link to the week 3 homework assignment. It's grayed out right now just because it's not open yet, but it'll be like the previous weeks where you can click on it and it'll show you again what you need to hand in. It'll show you a model answer of what I'm going to be grading on, and then it'll give you a place where you can attach both your refined drawing and your pen tool exercise. And again, make sure you're submitting the AI file, which is the Illustrator file, this week. Alright, and that's your homework for week 3.